You are listening to the Psychology and Esoteric podcast with Marina Stoichkova, your weekly show for spiritual advice.
Hello, dear friend. The topic of today's episode is called Unhealthy Family Loyalty. And we will put only the beginning of this deep and very important theme. So let's describe, first of all, and clarify what I mean here by unhealthy family loyalty. This applies to circumstances or patterns or scenarios in your life which are in some way repeating an experience that one of your ancestors have had. So, first of all, this can apply to your parents. And this is kind of like usually the easier level, because typically we have access to it, we have some observations, and it's a great starting point. But it may go also much deeper into generations which have been like centuries before you, and they're still part of your family system. So this is something that you can explore and work on literally for years. And this is not an exaggeration, and it's really worth it to do it. So in this episode, I want to give you a little bit of insight and suggestion what you can do and where you can get started with it. So the first thing also we need to understand is that those are not conscious decisions. It doesn't mean that you should like your parents or a particular family member so that you are repeating their scenario. Almost all of the time, those are deeply unconscious patterns. And one of the approaches is to explore this, to work with whatever we can, and to make it conscious. So I'm not saying that only by simple analysis or observation, you will be able to catch all of the depth of this. Unfortunately, this is not how it works. And there are other methods, and in the future we will talk about those, that will help you to go into the areas which are unknown and really get closer to the depth. But what we can do right now is to get started with the more kind of like obvious, accessible levels. So think about the important life areas in your life. Usually there are some general which apply to everyone. Relationships, money, work, health, children, home. For some people, there might be education or creativity or spiritual development. And I guess we may have also some more personal topics which are important, but those are usually the general ones which apply to everyone. So you might want to start with one of those topics. If you want, you can explore all of them at the same time, of course. But I would like to recommend you to choose the one which is most problematic for you right now. Is it money or relationships or your health, whatever it might be? Just start with one area and spend some time with yourself to describe how are things happening for you when it comes to this area. And the more committed you are with this analysis and exercise, the better results you will get. So it really takes some effort to do it, but it's worth it. So you might want to write this down and just bring your thoughts, whatever they might be. What makes you feel frustrated with this area that you want to improve? Something very important also, what are your main beliefs? If it comes to relationships, for example, do you have a belief that you shouldn't really trust men? Or that, well, at the end of the day, everyone is unfaithful? Or that true love doesn't exist? Or you need to make a huge sacrifice for huge love? Or love is painful? So try to write down the most important beliefs that you have about this area, and what are the circumstances. So how do you feel? How are things? If it comes to money, do you feel like you can't earn enough money, or do you have problems with keeping money? Or do you have fear to spend, or whatever? And again, be as honest as you can. This is for you, not for anybody else. So be as honest as you can and put it down on a paper. And then I would recommend you to start with your parents. Look at their lives, specifically when it comes to the area which you are analyzing. What did you notice, especially when you were a child? What was the case or the circumstances of your parents when it comes to this particular area you are exploring? Did they kind of like make you feel like relationships are difficult? For example, they were separated or arguing, or there were infidelities? Or did they show you that it's very hard to earn money, or that money can't be earned in an honest way? So try to remember as much as you can, and keep in mind that you may not be able to access all of the important memories right away, but just start the process and allow it to go on. In a couple of days, or as much time as you need, you might remember other things. Put them on the same paper until you have like a bigger picture, and see how many of those circumstances or ideas have affected you as well when it comes to the same particular area. And you will probably find many connections. Sometimes the connections might be not repeating exactly the same, but trying to avoid it at all cost. So it feels like, oh, relationships can be painful and hurtful, and other people may betray you. So let's just avoid this overall. So, or of course, you can be in a relationship that you're also suffering, and if you are honest, you may recognize that you are probably repeating a scenario of another family member. It's not always that easy, and it may need some digging to find, but it's definitely worth it. And what we can do is to start with the conscious level. And what I mean here is you observe, you analyze, you explore, and you bring it to your conscious awareness. So you may literally have an aha moment. And of course, there might be other emotions which can be triggered. But this can give you an idea of how, even if you don't like particular family members, or you don't think that this is really how things should happen, at the end of the day, they may happen for you exactly in this way. So why is this happening? This is a complicated question, and I guess there could be many theories. It's a little bit of a philosophical question, but overall, in biology and even, in our human history, it has been very important to survive. So if a person has survived, it's considered that they have succeeded, and every experience they have been through is considered by the subconscious mind as a good surviving mechanism. If the person has suffered or not, this is not so important. The important thing is that this person has survived. So this is being translated into the future generations as a mechanism that helps for survival. Even if sometimes it could be actually destructive or bringing pain or unhappiness. It's a strange way, but this is how things work. So we tend to repeat what our ancestors have been through. And here I want to talk about the two mistakes that we can make when we explore this theme. The first one is to neglect this. Like to say, no, I don't care, it doesn't matter, it won't apply to me, I'm not talking to my parents anymore, or they have passed, or whatever. Well, it's your choice, but you are really missing on an opportunity to have more control over your own life. Basically, by doing this work, analyzing, being honest how things are with you, can you find a connection with another family member? This really helps you to have more control of your life. So if you just decide to neglect this, it's your choice, but you are missing on an opportunity. The other possible mistake that you can make is a little bit of the opposite, which is to say, okay, this is how things work, there is nothing I can do. Those scenarios, they will define my life, they have control over my life. What is it that I can do? There's nothing. And to get this into this passive position, this is also not helpful. So the point is not to feel as a victim or powerless or helpless or kind of like get mad about how things work. We won't change anything with this approach. So the best strategy is to be open and to explore. Again, I'm repeating that there are other methods which can help with digging deeper into this when it comes to connections with family members that we don't know, we have never heard about, things which are related to the deep unconscious mind. But we are not there yet. So we are starting today this topic with the idea of exploring with your conscious awareness. And this can be very helpful because when you bring your conscious awareness into something, you have more power to change it. So I think it's definitely worth it to give it a try and to give yourself permission to have a different life, to have a better life than your parents or grandparents or other family members. everyone may find different motivation. You might find your motivation in your children. You might be inspired to do more work on your own so that they have less burden, so to speak. You might find your motivation, of course, just by wanting to improve your own life, and this is very healthy, actually, to do it just for yourself. Or you might want to do it sometimes even in the name of your ancestors, the people before you, parents, grandparents, and many, many generations before that, to kind of like live a better life for them as well. For someone, this can also be a great motivation. So I hope I have inspired your interest, and you will take an honest look in your own life and see which of the things that your parents and other family members didn't have, you're also not allowing yourself to experience fully. So it's worth it, and you can find many answers for yourself. This is just the beginning of this direction. We will talk about it in future episodes, and there will be many other interesting things that I will introduce you to. But for today, you may just process and allow this to guide you. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will be with you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and don't forget to visit marsstars.net. You will find tons of free resources, as well as courses, membership community, and consultations.